record. All right, I'm recording, so I'm going to get started so we all can get out of here after getting some great information. So I'll jump right into it and share my screen here. All right, Dr. Johnson, can you see that?
Yes, it's good.
All right.
Chart.
Well, this isn't a chart. This is the agenda.
Oh, well, what I see is a chart.
You know, those
No,
are just
it's
kind of like some colorful things to have on the agenda. So we'll be following our normal agenda, which always starts off with a quick look at our updated metrics. So if you see here, actually good news on this front.
Great news.
Yeah, right. So for the last bi-weekly total, so from January 31st to February 13th, our county case count continues to go down. So it had us at 61 last week. I think it was at 60 at one point, but maybe they added a case in there. We went from 61 to 58, which is great news because that actually 60 is the cutoff from this orange zone to this yellow zone. So we are in the yellow zone in regards to the ODE criteria sections. So we're at 58 for a total case count and a test positivity rate of 7.5. So our good friends, Megan McFedrich and Wendy Perrin, have updated our other data where we're going in depth. So you'll see here, this blue line is our county case count. So that's down to 58, just creeping into that yellow zone, which is good news. Our student quarantines jumped up just 4. So went from 76 to 80. And we've talked about this before where student quarantines and keeping that number where it's at isn't necessarily a bad thing because it just means that we're making sure that any kid that has a chance of being exposed, that we're going above and beyond to make sure they're safe and quarantined and keeping moving forward. Dr. Johnson, I saw you unmuted. You want to tune in? You want to jump in?
Well, I just wanted to thank the nurses for their consistent contact tracing. That is why it shows that it's working. When you see that at 80, that means that they have traced those webs out and we're keeping the schools safe. So I want to see those numbers stay up there as long as we have people that are experiencing COVID impact.
For sure. Man, do we have good nurses.
And a good health department. We are so proud of our team.
Dr. Johnson, the tough thing is I'm used to our witty banter in our fireside chats and you're muted. And it's like, I'm just saying these crazy things and people are looking at me like I'm crazy, but
we think we're witty.
We sure think we're really fun. All right, let me get back to my chart. So positive COVID students. So you have the number of quarantine students is this gray line. This yellow line is the number of students that have actually tested positive. Good news here, we're from 14 down to 9, so that's a great decrease there. And then finally, our last line, and this was actually really good news as well. Our number of staff who are quarantined is down from 8 to 4. So good to see all of that. And I believe Megan McFedrich, correct me if I'm wrong, of the 4 staff quarantined, 3 are positive. So I know we were kind of making that distinction. So of the 4 staff positive, quarantine, 3 are positive. With that, any questions on the chart from our friends out there?
I don't have a chart question, but I do have a question from Scott Cooper once we get into the questions for Katie.
Okay, Katie, get ready. And with that, I think that's a great segue into our excellent health department deputy director jumping in to give us a quick update.
Perfect. I love it when the transitions just lend themselves in conversation, right? So my updates really are mirroring what the data is that Joel just shared. So in the previous week, we did see case counts down. We had 27 for the previous week. And for those of you who were who caught us last week in the update or maybe watched the video recording, I shared the metrics, the county metrics, which are a little bit different than the ODE numbers and the way they measure them and roll them out, but they still affect schools and that they affect athletics. And so this week or this previous week, we start the cycle that they'll measure for our next cycle. And so with 27 cases, that allows us, we have to be under 60 to be able to drop out of the extreme risk category. So we're kind of still on the edge. We're on track to be below if we stay in this trajectory. But we would have to stay right around where we are. And I think to be comfortable, we'd want to see those cases to continue to decline over the next week. But it is good news to continue to see cases decline. One other good news or good point that I noted today when I looked over our case numbers, over the past about 3 weeks, we had seen a pretty steady increase in the number of cases in our 19 and younger population. And actually last week we saw that drop off a bit. So that was encouraging too. It's something we'll continue to keep an eye on, but it was good to see our 19 and youngers have fewer cases pop up in the last week. And I think the only other update I have is we're planning on our vaccine clinic for the 26th.
Yes.
Next Friday.
We have a vaccine clinic today. We're doing clinics every Tuesday at the fairgrounds. But for our school specific one on the 26th, we are in progress. We're doing our vaccine hustle and getting all of our doses gathered up for that particular event. So we are on track and excited to see you all soon for that too. So yeah, any other questions? And I'll take Scott's question too.
All right.
You want, I think I have an easy question. Do you want the easy one first or the hard one first?
Bring it.
All right, I'll give you the easy one. I believe, I just want to I want to make sure my understanding is right on this. So we've had, I don't know, probably 5 to 10, maybe 20 staff who didn't get their first dose at our January 25th vaccine drive, but have said, hey, can I jump in and get my first dose on the February 26th drive? That's okay, right? And I'm just going to group those people together at the end and say, if you need your first dose, come during this time.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. I just wanted to make sure before I brought a lot of first doses to you, because the first dose and the second dose are different. And we don't want second dose people getting first dose and vice versa. Am I right?
They're the same, but we are for tracking purposes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we'll work specifically. We'll probably just have to work with our screeners up front as they're checking people in just to clarify if it's their first or second, because we want to make sure we work specifically with those first dose folks to make sure that they get scheduled for their second dose, because we'll have to plug them into one of our Tuesday clinics.
Perfect. That sounds great. Katie, you always have the answers. All right, Dr. Johnson, give them the hard question now.
Okay, this is a hard question. So Katie, the CDC has some new guidance out. Is that correct?
Pretty regularly. Yep.
Okay. All right. So Scott says, I'm a little concerned. Can we review our practices against the new CDC guidance?
Do you know specifically which he's referring to?
CDC just came out with some new
School guidelines.
Practice guidelines that I think match or are very close to the ODE. So I believe those are probably the ones he's referencing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole lot that gets rolled out on the regular right now. So I would be happy to look at the new CDC guidance and just see where it compares and overlaps we'll crosswalk it, if you will, with our current practices.
We, you know, an internal one, so I felt okay about it. But then, of course, after someone raises an alert, I felt like, well, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's my question today. I think what I'm going to do is forward you this article. It says CDC defends school guidelines as advocates say they make it too hard to reopen. But the way that I understood it, it was the masks, the 35 square feet, the social distance, the cleaning, upgraded cleaning protocols, temperatures. I think actually temperature checking might be in there.
Yeah, I think Oregon has stayed pretty close to that guidance all along. It's other states that have been fairly lax across the board, not just with schools reopening. So I could definitely see that getting pushed back in other places, but I feel like we're probably pretty close to on track with it. I definitely don't anticipate and haven't heard any rumblings at OHA or in any of our work groups that it would significantly or really at all impact what we're doing. But I think reviewing it and just seeing how ours is comparing to that CDC guidance is.
One of the things that's in this article is the mandatory masks, which we already have that. And we've actually been pretty strict in enforcing that, or we try to be. You know, I think some kids sneak a little now and then, but and trying to keep the 6 feet between students. I think that's hard for us to do because, you know, I look around and they're close to each other, but like we have it marked and we're trying to do it. The intensive contact tracing, and then the you know, quarantining people who are impossibly exposed. Okay, I'm going to send you the article. I don't see anything else in here that's different.
And if you, after I go through it, if you want to pull a small group of us together, if there's anything that we need to flag and revisit, and we can bring that back to this group too.
Okay.
And I usually put a little section in Jason's weekly update to all of the staff. I don't know that I would get a review done by the time he sends it out, but we could bring it back to this group, and then the next week's email that goes out, we could have something in there.
Perfect. And I think the important thing to bring up here with this group is that we are watching the guidance if it shifts or changes, and we are paying attention to what's going on and continue to use the highest standards. So apply the highest standards, I should say.
All right. So with that, any other questions out there for Katie Plum?
I have one. Just to clarify, I think you already answered this, but I know that a lot of my coaches out there are asking questions. So for our, we need to be in that yellow zone for our indoor activities for more than 6 people. So what you were saying is that we need 1 more week so that we're under the 60 for that 2nd week in a row. So the first week that we would be eligible to do any sort of indoor sporting activities over the 6th would be the 22nd. Is that right?
So they will, I'm pulling up my calendar here real quick. The next date that they will review is the 23rd, and we would change status. So if on the 23rd, so if this week right now that we're in, we stay low, and starting from the 7th, so the 7th through the 20th is what we need to be under 60 cases. So if that's the case, we'll find out on the 23rd if we're under 60, and then we would officially move on the 26th. Thank you, Joel. And then
Katie.
yeah, that Friday, the 26th is when our status would change.
Okay.
Michelle, I can email you. Katie put this together for us last week. I'll email it to you for you to share with your staff or as coaches have questions, because I know this is a big topic.
And I'll update it. So on the next week, next Tuesday, I'll update this chart to show where our numbers are at.
Good question, Michelle Jonas. Any other questions out there?
I like this. Maybe we'll pick up some viewers.
What were you cut out there for a second? What were you saying, Dr. Johnson?
I like this format. Maybe we'll pick up some additional viewers. Demby, share the word on how awesome it was today.
Super fun. I checked our district as part of the OD requirements. We have a link for staff to send in anonymous safety concerns or violations. I've checked that. We're still at 0. So we normally would be reviewing those with this group when we do have any come in. With that, our last segment, and quite possibly the most popular segment, hearing from the Crook County School District nurses. So Megan, Wendy, anything on the horizon that we need to be watchful for or changing practice?
I don't think so. I think things are pretty steady right now.
I agree. Keep up the good teamwork.
There it is. Any questions for our school nurses out there? I have to give Megan McFetridge a shout out. She got our COVID data. Usually I'm calling and harassing her right before this meeting, be like, send me that data. She was early this week. So we're starting to become a well-oiled machine over here. So lots of good stuff going on. All right. So with that, if no one else has anything, you can always email Dr. Johnson, myself, or school nurses, Katie, your questions, and we'll get them on here. But with that, I think we're good to call it a day. All right, guys.
Great to be a part of a winning team.
There you go. Thanks for joining us. And we'll be on Zoom again next week, and we'll go from there. Same place, same time. Bye, everyone.